Hi everyone, I'm making this video to show you how I get the super duper texture on my mermaid scarves with the salt effects. Basically it's just layering the colors. First layer is gray or light to dark depending on what outcome you like. This is kind of a lighter outcome that I'm looking for, so it's a fairly light gray that I spray on. And then I put the color down with brushes, and then I add the salt, and it's kind of a non-stop process. You can't let the silk dry or else the salt won't work. So once you get started, I have let the gray layer dry, and that's okay. But once you start with the color, you can't stop, and then you have to put the salt on. So here I go, real time. It's also important to, and I'm not careful about making sure that this is all even, but one thing you do need to do is make sure that your edges, your rolled edges or your sewn edges, whichever you have on your scarf, have absorbed enough dye so that on the back side it doesn't stay white. You don't want, because that's going to look like a big faux pas. So when you're putting the color on, make sure you saturate the edges. And as you can see, this is a messy thing, so it's always good to put plastic down. And not every single square inch has to be covered. And I have a messy dye palette here because I've done these, the same one this is my third one. And I'm just gonna do some shapes. My mermaid ones, generally I do circles because I think it looks like sea anemones, and that's why I started calling them, excuse me, mermaid scarves. But this is a garden effect, and so I'm just doing random shapes, getting the dye on there as quickly as I can. And this is so much fun to do to see what the outcome is when the colors mix with the salt. Sometimes I try to be a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Balanced with the design. I do try to limit, you don't have to limit the palette, but I tend to limit the palette to about 5 colors. I do 3. These greens are going to be my main color here. colorway. And then I have accent colors. I have a brown and a pink. Again, the title of this is Spring Garden, and the customer is expecting a particular outcome. So I kind of have to make it look like the one that I have on my website. So, and I'm pretty sure that those are the colors that I used based on the photograph I have. I'm not very good about keeping notes on things. Okay, so now we're going to go to a brown. Like I said, make sure you get your edges saturated. Nice to let them mix a little bit, because that gives the salt something to work with. It's really fun to see the salts go to work where the colors touch each other, because it pulls different colors out. It's a lot of fun. Okay, changed brushes. Go to my pink. If it starts to puddle, you can see, move it around. You don't want tremendous puddles of dye. Brown is a fascinating color to work with too in the salts, because when it separates with the salt, it separates into purple and yellow. That's what makes brown. Okay, so I have the whole thing covered with 2 layers. I got the gray and I got my colors on there. And now I use kosher salt because it has different size grains. Some of the dye suppliers have their own brand of salt, but it's a very uniform salt. And if that's what you like, then that's what you like. But I like the difference, different effects. You can see there's some big crystals here, and then there's some really like dust, and it just makes the texture varied, and I like that. So I use just plain old Morton kosher salt, and it doesn't need a lot to get a really nice effect. I learned that the hard way. You don't have to pile it on. Just sprinkle it all around. Make sure, I'll go look at it again, but I want to make sure that I've got salt where the colors meet, so I can get that fun when those salts pull out the colors, where the colors mix, the dye colors mix. And putting the gray layer or the dark layer underneath gives the salt something to work with. And I have found, and I've done a lot of testing with this, that it gives it so much dimension rather than just putting green and pink straight on the scarf. You just, that dark dye gives it a three-dimensional look when it starts to pull the dye around. Just getting some of those nice areas where the dyes meet, making sure that they have the salt on there to do their magic. All right, I'll take a picture and add it at the end when it's all dry. Thanks.